The failure to act with sufficient ambition to avert the climate catastrophe will be the greatest moral failure of our time.
Making changes takes courage, and if we don't change things, we won't have a future.
I'm an environmentalist. A lot of people don't understand that. I think I know more about the environment than most people.
You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words. Change is coming, whether you like it or not.
Zero Carbon
Eastall. Hello and welcome to Zero Carbonista, Series 2, The Manifesto. I'm Ian Collins, and for the newbies, this is the only podcast of its kind that will give you the real lowdown on all the major environmental stories, alongside some honest and qualified opinion. Many have tried, few have succeeded. Our man in the hot seat each week, of course, is Dale Vince. Dale is an entrepreneur and environmentalist. He built his success in the green energy sector and is the owner of Ecotricity. And for the uninitiated, that's the world's first green energy company. He also happens to be the owner of Forest Green Rovers. On each episode, we'll bring you the dominating issues from the biggest agenda on the planet right now, the environment and climate change. Dale, morning to you.
Morning, Ian.
Interesting. We've been on this territory before, and I thought it was quite a good place to start. COVID drives record emissions drop in 2020. And it's kind of a double-edged sword, this, because we don't want to celebrate COVID, but there is a curious positive upshot of the effects of the lockdown.
Yeah, I got mixed feelings about it. We did look at it before, as you say, and there was a decent drop in emissions, and because it makes sense, doesn't it? Because we've had a couple of lockdowns, big reduction in traffic, particularly air traffic, and that kind of stuff. And we know these are the kinds of things that we have to do to fight the climate crisis, but much less so. Do you know what I mean? We don't need a lockdown to fight the climate crisis. We just need to adapt our behavior and our consumption. It's easily within our capabilities to do that. So maybe what this shows us is that, there is a direct link, between our the way we live and emissions, pollution, including carbon dioxide.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, you're aware of the kind of, well, I suppose you could call it a conspiracy theory, which is that...
Which one?
Yeah, I mean, oh my goodness. I mean, the amount of time the name Bill Gates comes up on our radio shows, if this is the Antichrist who works for the Illuminati, apparently, from a secret cave in South America, concocting his wicked plans to vaccinate us all and kill off half the world. It's just... If it wasn't such, sinister and dubious accusations, we just sort of laugh at it. But some people... Our fellow humanoids actually believe this stuff, Dale, which is extraordinary. But there is the theory around the green agenda, and I don't know what you think about this as a lifelong environmentalist, is that this outfit called the World Economic Forum, the NGO that has 1,000 of the biggest companies as its members, they meet in Davos, and apparently they also concoct plans to take over the world. And one of those plans is that coronavirus was either invented artificially or it's been inflated in order to bring in by the back door lots of environmental policies which will leave the rest of us slave to the agenda, and the agenda being, if you don't run with this, the world's going to die. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it's just more craziness, isn't it? The environment agenda attracts the same kind of conspiracy theories, that it's either not real or it's being exaggerated, and it's all some attempt, an anti kind of liberal or libertarian takeover of, our human rights to pollute and do what the hell we want to the planet. We see that around the environment crisis and the environment movement. So I'm not surprised to see it conflated with the virus crisis as well.
But is it likely to accelerate, change the way that countries approach environmental issues? And I'm tempted to say that this conspiracy theory is clearly bollocks, because otherwise you wouldn't be on here every week moaning about the lack of action from our government. If supposedly there's some grand plan being cooked up elsewhere around the world that all governments are in a slavish way adhering to, then we wouldn't be having these conversations, because you'd be giving the thumbs up to Johnson every week.
Yeah, I guess I might be. Yeah, I mean, I'm more tempted to give the finger to Johnson than the thumb up. But look, I've been doing this for 25 years, and the climate crisis crisis has been emerging into our consciousness, and in terms of scientific basis has been around for that for 20, 30 years now. And these conspiracy theories are just new, they're just recent, but they're just another reason for some people not to act. I was on the radio in the last few days in talk radio, and I was kind of debating with a guy from the Institute of Economic Affairs, and I always thought that just from the name, that was a serious body of, kind of intellectual people.
Oh, they're good at that. Oh, they're good at the names. Yeah.
Aren't they amazing? And then this guy, it transpires as he starts talking, is like pro-coal, anti-climate crisis, anti-electric cars. And I just couldn't believe it. I thought, oh my God, this is an organization of nutters, basically dressed up with a kind of professional sounding name. And I think this is what we're facing in the world today. Just a whole bunch of nutters masquerading as serious people, and conspiracy theories masquerading as serious theories. And all of it is a distraction from what it is that we know that we need to do, which is fight the climate crisis and actually change how we live. We need to live more sustainably. The virus crisis itself is a result of unsustainable living.
Here's a question from Richard, who says, what do you make of the new mega EV charging station in Braintree? Do you have similar plans for the electric highway? This is a huge story this week. Well, I say huge story. It's one of those stories that's big in its own world, but perhaps didn't get the headlines it should have done.
Yeah, it's a lovely story. GridServe have opened something called the Electric Forecourt, which is a kind of electric petrol station, if you like. Something we first conceived of on a blog site about 10 years ago, the idea of it, what petrol stations of the future might look like. And I like what they've done. They put in a whole bunch of high-powered chargers in a location somewhere in Essex. I'm not quite sure where it is, but I hope it goes well for them. And yeah, we do have the same plans, or rather plans for the same chargers, high-powered chargers. We're putting the first ones into Rugby right now. 6 of them. They're 350 kilowatt capable machines, which is just incredible. Wow. We currently have 50 kilowatt machines, and they were state of the art 3-4 years ago. And when we began with 3 kilowatts 10 years ago on the motorway. So we've just come an awful long way in 10 years in the EV sector, which I think is amazing. And right now we've got people like GridServe, Instavolt, all sorts of people in Britain building charging infrastructure, which is just fantastic.
Going in the right direction. Let's have a listen to this.
My name is Greta Thunberg, and I'm inviting you to be a part of the solution. 5 years ago, world leaders signed the Paris Agreement, and they promised to keep the global average temperature rise to well below 2 degrees Celsius and to pursue 1.5 degrees to safeguard future living conditions. But the action needed is still nowhere in sight.
Greta Thunberg, of course, there. You've always spoke positively about this young lady, Dale.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what she's done is amazing, and what she does is amazing. Sent her a copy of my book, actually, a couple of weeks ago, because nice. I think that chapter 13 has got something in there that we're really interested, because what we need are concrete policy outcomes, to solve this crisis. I mean, she's right. A lot of the promises are empty. The deadlines are too far away. I mean, 2050, who dreamt that one up? For example, she's right about that, and we need more concrete action. But what we need to be able to tell politicians is exactly what we want them to do in the sectors of energy, transport, and food, the kind of changes to subsidies and taxes that we want. The specifics of that are in chapter 13 of my book, and I hope that she finds something useful in there that she can pick up and run with.
Yeah, and her point really is that this has got to come from the people. If the politicians are ineffective and inactive, as she suggests, then, kind of people power will win over.
Yeah.
Or has to win over.
Yeah, I see 3 sectors of society active in this: people, business, and government. And there's a big change in the outlook of people, a rising concern about the climate crisis and stuff like that. We're seeing businesses adapt to that. They're making stuff that people are demanding that is lower impact. We're talking plant-based food, for example, electric cars, green energy, that kind of stuff. And we're seeing an actual reaction from government as well, in terms of adopting stances, policies, and making promises and stuff. But as she says, a lot of that is inadequate. And I think that governments tend to follow, not lead. And so our job as people is to show governments and businesses exactly what we want, so that businesses produce the products and governments produce the policies. But the people with the big levers of power, they absolutely are the governments, the politicians. They can make the big changes we need. And it's about taxes, subsidies, and regulations. It's about what we're allowed to do, what we're not allowed to do, and what we must do. Governments set those rules.
Okay, here's a question from Gemma on Twitter. How does it feel to be called a genius by the Daily Mirror? I didn't see this.
Oh, did you not? Yeah, I saw it, and it made me laugh. It's a first to be called a genius, at least in print anyway. It's been said to before, but I was kind of like bemused, amused, mildly flattered, but happy to be in front of that audience, a tabloid audience, albeit left wing rather than right wing. And this was about my outlook on transport. What the roads are going to look like in 10 years' time. Just a very short piece about what we've done in the last 10 years, from building the Nemesis to the electric highway and that kind of stuff. I'm not sure if it touched on Sky Diamonds or not, but yeah, it was fun. Is my answer. I was amused to see that.
Are you going to put that on the side of your car?
I'm going to get on a T-shirt.
Yeah, genius. And then underneath Daily Mirror. There's nothing wrong with that. Here's a story that feeds into something that we talk about an awful lot, and that is the responsibility of rich countries over poor countries in that respect. Rich countries will miss key promises they made to the poor world on the climate crisis by failing to provide money necessary to cope with its effects. You could almost write this stuff, couldn't you? We could have written that headline a year ago that, we'll be back here talking about this, and people won't have done what their moral obligations suggest they should have done.
Yeah, I saw the headline and I didn't read the article because, as you say, there's like nothing going on here. Read the headline, you know that it's always been like this. So nothing's changed. Yeah, I just shrugged and moved on.
We can do that with a question. For well, it's worth a shrug. I mean, it is a shrug, and it's an intake of breath, and we know what the speech bubble above our heads is saying. Dean on Facebook says, now this is reference boilers. You and I talked about this on the radio this week, of course. Yeah. Dean says, making us all pay £8,000 for a green boiler is ludicrous. Perhaps they should tax rich people like you, Dale, so we can all benefit. There you go. He's thrown it right back at you, Dale.
Yeah, love it. So this was a story, was it from the Times, I think? And they said, yeah, actually Britons are going to have to stump up £8,000 each because of government policies to ban gas boilers and stuff like this. A wonderful piece of kind of journalistic license. When you read the article itself and the story that was actually behind it, the £8,000 cost is going to be incurred over the next 30 years. So that's actually 250 quid a year. And it's not just about boilers, it's about raising the energy efficiency levels of homes as well. So there's a whole raft of measures to lower the emissions from our homes. But in the process of doing that, we lower our energy consumption and our energy bills. And there's a net benefit to doing that. So it was a kind of a confected headline meant to shock people and make them angry about, costs being imposed on them from the green agenda, really, which we talked about earlier, Ian. And it was basically fake. I don't want to say fake news, but maybe we can start using that term, once the orange man is consigned to the dustbin of history.
He's going nowhere. Have you not keeping up with this stuff? He's still not going anywhere.
He's not. Well, he will be. He will be.
He's the official president. It's just so funny to watch this happen.
It is. But the other thing I wanted to say, of course, is that we don't have to give up gas completely. We can make gas from grass. We set out a plan for doing that shows there's enough grass in Britain on marginal land to power all of our homes from gas. We can create 70,000 jobs in the rural economy, save the burning of £6 or £7 billion worth of fossil gas every year, create vast new areas of wildlife, and produce genuinely carbon neutral gas here in Britain. We become gas independent in the process. So this is a great example of what the green economy can do from us. And it's unfortunate when you have a newspaper like the Times highlighting this fake negative that it's going to cost £8,000 each, which, by the way, is exactly what's been spent this year per household just by our government to fight the virus crisis. And that's not the cost that we've borne ourselves as well through redundancies and business failures. That's just the amount of money that the government themselves have spent. I think it's really unfortunate to try to paint this picture to people that the green agenda costs money, when actually what it does is provide us with a completely different future. But there you go.
And if you kind of do the maths, whip out your trusty abacus, I think an 8-year-old could work out that, if you fast forward this over just a relatively small amount of years, then the benefits are not just tangible in the sense of, we breathe better, the air and everything about the planet is in a more positive state, but actually the whole thing is cheaper ultimately anyway.
You raise a good point there. If we were faced with the option of paying £8,000 to have a planet we could live on or not, are we really going to say, what, you want £8,000? Are we really going to say that? I don't think so. I mean, it's a tiny cost, actually, but it's spread over 30 years anyway, and it will save us more money than it costs us, as well as give us a planet that we can live on. So the whole argument is just bullshit, really. But that's what that's what we face, isn't it? This
that should also go on the T-shirt.
Yeah, absolutely. It might turn into a long T-shirt.
Yeah, nothing wrong. Well, sticking with it's a nice move into a clothing feature. We are just weeks away, of course, from the festive season, Dale, and I saw this story that Christmas jumpers are bad for the planet. Not Christmas T-shirts, Christmas jumpers are bad for the planet.
Well, I think Christmas is bad for the planet, I have to say, because it's just a period of hyper consumption, isn't it? When everybody eats and drinks too much, we buy a load of shit for people that they don't really want and never use, and we receive a load of shit in return that we don't really want and never use, and it's just one massive commercial binge, which is why retailers love it, of course, and why government think it's so important to our economy and stuff like that. But environmentally, it's a nightmare, of course, not least to the millions of turkeys that give their lives for Christmas, not willingly, I should say.
No, true. I don't think anybody ever volunteered for that particular role.
That gig.
This is it's called fashion landfill. I never really thought about this, but people exchange these jumpers and they buy it across the planet, millions of them, and then come January they go, we don't want that, we'll throw it away.
That's
so
right.
Buried under planet Earth, amidst the chaos that is several billion tons of white goods and Lord knows what else.
Yeah,
Christmas several cards, billion tons, Christmas cards,
wrapping
and Christmas
paper,
wrapping paper, all of that caper.
Oh, good. Bar humbug.
What a miserable pair of bastards we are, aren't we?
I'm having a hard day today. I think that's what it is.
Nothing wrong with that. And this comes from Cassie on Facebook. Says, I've really enjoyed your Facebook live streams. Have you got any more coming up over Christmas?
Yeah, I think we're going to try and squeeze one in before Christmas. We were trying to do, we've got 2 or 3 in the pipe. We're talking about doing one with Jon Snow, one with Lucy Siegel, and possibly one with Guy Watson. And I'm just not quite sure what order they're going to come in. But yeah, definitely. I'm enjoying them as well, actually.
Good work.
Good fun.
And that is it. Dale, we'll speak next week.
Nice one. Thank you, Ian.
Have a cracking week. That's it for this episode. Don't forget, of course, you can subscribe for free from your podcast provider. Essentially, that means you get every single new episode automatically. We always like you to leave a review there as well and let us know what you think. And if you want to get in touch with the podcast, you can do it through the usual social media methods, or, of course, email zerocarbonista@ecotricity.co.uk. The important bit, of course, is to follow Dale on social media, twitter.com/DaleVince, facebook.com/DaleVince.
I'm on Instagram now as well.
Instagram too?
Yeah, as of this week. Yeah.
Fantastic. Search Dale Vince on Instagram too.
Zero Carbon
East of